Young Turks is back with a brand new season of Voices from the Valley, fulfilling our annual promise of giving you unparalleled access to the heart of the startup and tech capital of the world. Last year, we captured the early whir of the generative AI engine, and this year we return to record its roar. In this episode, we bring you two voices, one which speaks for the world of APIs and the other that pioneered India's SaaS exports to the Silicon Valley. Ask anyone about APIs and one is sure to hear about Abhinav Asthana and his Postman. What started off as a side project in 2012 has now grown to be an industry-standard API platform used by over 30 million developers and 500,000 organizations, including 98% of the Fortune 500 enterprises. At $5.6 billion, Postman is valued higher than Freshworks and holds the crown for being India's most valued SaaS unicorn. It was Nexus Venture Partners, true to its belief of backing breakout enterprise software companies, that made one of the earliest institutional investments in Postman as early as 2016, led by the VC firm's managing director, Jishnu Bhattacharjee, whose investing expertise lies in data, AI, SaaS and DevOps. Founded in 2006, Nexus Venture Partners has backed over 75 enterprises, tech startups over 150 startups, cumulatively with assets under management of $2.6 billion. Zomato, OLX, Unacademy, Snapdeal, Ultrahuman and Zepto are some of the top consumer startups to have emerged from the Nexus stable. Abhinav, let me start by talking to you about it. I mean, you know, as I pointed out, first-generation entrepreneur, didn't have any business or entrepreneurial background, and you started in high school. What was that about?
Yeah, well, I've been, as you said, side hustling for a while. I think Postman is kind of my only gig, just for viewers. But I've been fascinated with computers, from a very early age. My dad bought me my first computer, was hooked up to the internet, and I just loved programming. I loved building stuff, and then it turned into building products. And then it turned into building companies, and eventually, like this company,
which was also a side hustle in 2012.
Yes. So I was experimenting, with different ways in which, developers could be more productive, and this one turned out to be a side project that worked.
But when you started, did you ever think that you would be at a point where you would become the most valued SaaS unicorn, which is what you are today?
I don't think we were ever chasing, that status or that valuation. I think we always felt like that was a reflection of, the potential of the business and the work that we have put in.
So what was the mission statement? Was there like a napkin where the mission statement was written out as far as Postman was concerned?
Yeah, Postman's mission is to, create 100 million connected developers and bring the vision of an API-first world to life. That came in after, when we talked to developers, we talked to customers, and we saw how big the potential of APIs is for them, and we kind of were compelled to have that vision statement. So it was a push and a pull, and that's where we are.
Well, speaking of the push and pull, Jishnu, you've seen many cycles, and at this point in time, same time last year when we spoke, you were excited about what was happening as far as AI is concerned. But what a breakout it has been. I mean, 2023 and now 2024, it's as if you can't stop talking about this story. And we talked about the hype cycle, but it does start to feel like it does have real legs now.
It does. Last time we mentioned that, AI is being talked about as this inflection point which is changing everything. Either a company will be an AI company or a company will be using AI products or AI services. I think that this is the first time when people have sensed what AI is. It's not how a trend line will look like 2 years after. It's like a live, almost like a live person with whom I can have a conversation. So clearly it had an impact. I think what is yet not proven out is at what scale the use cases and applications will be using AI beyond innovation and experimental budget. There are certain areas, maybe on content production, on software development, where the ROI is getting to some extent proven out. But there are a lot of other cases where I would say it's still a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of lean forward. But sustainable use cases are yet to come. and this year and the next will probably be quite defining.
I would imagine so. And Abhinav, how are you seeing this? Because, as we heard there from Jishnu, a lot of companies at this point in time running pilots, some are actually now moving beyond the pilot stage. But the other aspect is also that, you're now being judged from an earnings and a valuation perspective on whether you have an AI strategy or not, even if, so how are you reading into these developments, and what does it mean for Postman specifically?
Yeah, we are pretty much kind of in the middle of it.
In the middle of it, yeah.
I think what we are seeing from our end is that there's a lot of excitement, as Jishnu said, on what is the potential of AI. I think what everyone is realizing is that the first use case that came out was actually code completion, and that's where developers are seeing real value. Beyond that, I think there's a lot of experimentation that's kind of going on. All of that depends on your data and your APIs and what access to data you have through APIs. What is available to you. So the AI that you create is as good as the data that you have, and the experiences are dependent on APIs. So that's kind of what we are seeing, and every company is trying to bring this puzzle together. At our conference, we hosted folks from OpenAI, NVIDIA, and Notion, and they talked about that basically at this point people are going from building a prototype in production to the next one, and we are learning as things go along. I think it's kind of in some ways co-creating with the community at large, right? The community is showing a lot of enthusiasm for these demos, and people are responding to it, like the demand of these demos. I think there are some use cases that will stick, but I think over the next couple of years, as the technology evolves, we'll see maybe very dramatically different things.
Yeah, and just to pick up on that, I think this aspect that you talked about, where the community is actually working together, this sense of collaboration. I don't know whether you think that it's working differently in comparison to what we perhaps even saw with the last sort of big transition, the cloud shift. Are you seeing this as being different, the kind of collaborative, synergistic moves that we're seeing today?
It's amazing. I would say it has gotten accelerated, and I would like to amplify one point that Abhinav said. Like, if you look at today how AI is being used, there are two aspects to it. How good are the AI models?
Yeah.
But equally important is how seamless is the access to AI along with the data on which the AI is supposed to run, and that's where API comes in. Like, we internally at Postman say that for every AI there is an API. Today we don't know of AI getting consumed without API.
Yeah.
Now if you put that thing together, what it translates, it just makes it seamless to collaborate on AI using tools like API. And the open source community has also taken over very significantly in terms of AI innovation. Previously it came from, I would say, generative AI was shown to the world by OpenAI, but things have come along a long way, probably even more so by the open source community, and which is essentially collaboration, community coming together and building amazing things.
Yeah, and I remember you said that APIs are the hands and legs that drive the thinking, right? So explain that to us.
Yeah. I think if you see the explosion of AI-driven applications that was driven by the OpenAI API being available very early on, what you had to do before, even if you see what the cloud enabled was, you didn't have to buy infrastructure anymore. You could just go start up like an AWS account, and APIs provided by these LLM providers like OpenAI have accelerated it. You can just have an app, plug in an API call, and now you're building with AI. So that has led to a massive proliferation of AI technologies. And I think there is the other end of AI as well. Like if you look at code completion or text completion, those things only go a certain way. But for the AI to be able to act on certain things, for example, we were talking about flights before. If you had to book a flight, right? Like the booking of the flight has to be through an API call. If you're making payments, it has to be through an API call. So LLMs of the future will need to understand what options they have available to take actions on behalf of consumers, and that's what I mean by AI, APIs being the hands and legs of AI.
Since we're talking about the importance of open source, and you were talking about the acceleration that's been provided as well, let's talk about the fact that you've been able to create the largest public API hub. What was the thought behind that?
Yeah, we saw that developers really just want fantastic APIs fast, and they were doing it through Postman. what we could do was bring publishers to developers. We saw a lot of publishers who were struggling with building great developer experiences. And on one end, they were using Postman in a little bit hacky way, and then consumers really wanted access to these APIs. So we were like, why don't we just put them together? And we were just fascinated with the response. We had providers like Salesforce, Stripe, Meta, all came on board, and we just kind of tapped into this disconnect that existed. So we're growing by leaps and bounds. We have the best brands on the platform today, and it's still kind of very much on its early stages. We're bringing like AI APIs on the platform. We are bringing like traditional sectors like healthcare, financial services. We have MasterCard on the platform now. We have telecom companies. So and in India we are seeing a huge bunch of like fundamental infrastructure APIs come on the platform. So really our mission is always to kind of accelerate the work that developers need to do, and the public network is kind of in service of that.
Well, Jishnu, outside of AI, what else is looking exciting? Because it looks like, everything at this point in time is AI or AI-led or AI-driven. But outside of that, from your portfolio perspective, as well as the bets that you're making, what else is looking interesting? Any new disconnects that startups are trying to sort of leverage on?
Yeah, absolutely. See, what happens is that, this kind of thing. So in 16 years I'm investing, there was cloud wave, then came microservices, APIs, AI. These inflection points actually give rise to a lot of innovation. Now, what is happening is that if you look at AI has taken center stage in mindshare and also has taken center stage in innovation. But around that, a lot of things are happening, which means that to make AI work, first of all, data is huge. So there are a lot of innovation happening around data processing, data cleaning. Ultimately, this AI and what we talked about has to work and do something. So which means action. How do you drive action from this AI? So there is a lot of workflows that needs to be rethought about. Previously, people would think that, okay, develop an application. Now people say that, you don't need that middleman called application. You just need the action to be done. Because I don't need a dashboard. I need something to be done. Can AI do that? So involving AI, a lot of things are going on. Now, to your point, see, every facet of the economy, and here we are talking broadly, not just like, if you just look at India, the digitization pace in India is just like all the things we talk about, right? Like, whether it is UPI, whether it is ONDC, everything is actually, leading to a lot of innovation. APIs are at the center. But one point I would say is that, there are a lot of things which will continue to happen which doesn't involve AI. AI by definition are things which are probabilistic or stochastic, but many of the things that we do are as we have been doing is deterministic. So it will always be a coexistence. I mean, sometimes, in today's world, if you open up the newspaper or turn on the TV, it seems that, AI is everything. At the end of the day, AI is an enabler. That doesn't take away the need for the core innovations and infrastructure that
we're speaking about innovations. What's looking good at this point in time? You closed that big $700 million fund last year. So where are you deploying all of the capital?
So as we do, 50% of our deployment happens in what we call Digital India, which is digitization of the country, and 50% is in global software. Like Postmans of the world. We need more Postmans. We are fortunate to be working with Abhinav from day one.
Quite literally from day one, right?
Actually, yes. Like, as he said, he was building something first to help himself. Then he figured out that, like him, there are a lot of developers. And then he said, oh, I built a product that user loves. Let me build a company. And luckily at that time, we could partner with him.
Exactly. And this takes me back to the conversation that I had with Shantanu Narayan just 24 hours ago, where he said exactly that. He said, if a startup says, I have a problem, I'm going to find a way to fix it, that is probably the best business that you should then chase after. And it seems like that's exactly what you did.
I mean, I had built a lot of failed products, so I know what that looks like. But Postman was, one of those things where, you just know what, the person needs because the person is you. I think for me, just not being egoistic about like, hey, what I've built is good enough. I think you kind of have to maintain that desire to build a better version of that product while also being kind of, satisfied that, okay, this is good enough so you can ship. If you can get that balance right, you can, be your best customer and build a company around it. So we Yeah. I mean, we had 500,000 users, before we started, and that was a big kind of push as well.
And on that note, actually going back, because you were asking about innovation, so we are seeing actually massive innovation in consumers. Like, we all know of Zepto, or at least people will get to know more about Zepto, which is almost like, changing the commerce stack of the country. Similarly, if you look at in areas in financial services, in healthcare delivery, I think in every facet we are seeing innovation. If you look at on the software side, just to going back to the, every layer of the stack, infrastructure, platform, tooling that development needs to build software or now deliver actions with AI. I think everything there will be opportunities to rethink. And I think AI inflection point is real here. So, if what I mean is that innovations are not necessarily all AI that they are building intelligent frameworks or whatnot, but because of that, people's mind and eyes have gotten opened up on what all other things are possible.
Right.
And we will probably see this across industries.